Welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
And we are so thrilled you're joining us today because today's material is actually drawn from a SpeakDuo lesson.
Yeah, which is a great platform.
It really is. You can go to SpeakDuo.com to meet new people from around the world who are practicing English on video calls to become more confident with their English speaking abilities.
And if you are an advanced English learner, whether you're gearing up for high-stakes exams like IELTS or TOEFL, or you just want to navigate the corporate boardroom with a bit more authority, well, our mission today is strictly focused on you.
Exactly. No time for fluff today.
None at all. We are diving straight into an advanced English idiom masterclass for this deep dive. We want you sounding less like a textbook and honestly more like a fluent speaker handling the actual complexities of modern life.
And that modern life is often incredibly stressful, isn't it? I mean, the phrases we use naturally evolve to capture those exact frustrations.
Oh, definitely.
When the pressure is really on, our vocabulary shifts from polite textbook terms to very vivid, almost physical imagery.
Absolutely. Just think about the daily grind. We've all had those mornings where everything goes wrong.
Oh, yeah, the worst.
And then, on top of it all, you are forced to pay for something completely ridiculous just to get through the day, which brings up our first phrase to explore, to fork something over.
Right, to fork something over.
The source material defines this as reluctantly giving money or valuables to someone else.
Exactly. It's a very specific feeling.
But wait, let me push back on this right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm sitting at my desk and I hand my coworker $5 for a charity bake sale, am I forking it over? Is this just a slang way of saying to donate or to chip in?
That is a really crucial distinction, actually. And the short answer is absolutely not.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Well, what's fascinating about forking something over is the psychology of force and reluctance. When you donate or chip in, you are making an active, willing choice,
Right, it's a cooperative act. I want to buy the cookie.
Exactly. But when you are forced to fork something over, you have zero choice in the matter. You are being compelled by a demanding party.
I see.
The mental image is almost medieval. Just imagine literally using a pitchfork to hand over your hard-earned crops to a tax collector. It implies deep resentment.
Man, okay, so it's inherently painful. You're doing it because the consequences of not paying are worse. So let's put this in a corporate context.
Let's do it.
Say you're in a meeting with your boss explaining a budget shortfall. You might say, unfortunately, I had to fork over the rest of the department budget to cover that unexpected vendor fee.
That's a perfect example because by choosing that specific phrase, you are immediately signaling to your boss, look, I didn't want to do this. They forced my hand, so don't blame me.
Precisely. It shifts the blame beautifully. Or if we look at an IELTS Part 2 speaking prompt where you had to describe an annoying travel experience.
Oh, travel is full of these moments.
So true.
Yeah.
You could sit across from the examiner and say, when I finally got to the airport counter, my bag was 1 kilogram over the limit, and I had to fork over $80 in cash for a lost luggage fee.
I love that. It paints a very vivid picture of basically being robbed by an airline.
It really does. But let's say you forked over that money, you finally get to your destination, and your inbox has completely exploded.
The nightmare scenario.
Right. That feeling of drowning naturally triggers a survival response, which perfectly sets up our next phrase, being up to your neck in something.
It does. The definition here is being completely overwhelmed or deeply involved in work or problems.
Now, I hear people use this all the time, but I really want to clarify the nuance. Let's say my schedule is packed. Can I just use up to my neck as a simple synonym for being busy?
You could, but you'd really be missing the severity of the idiom. I mean, being busy implies you have a lot of tasks on your plate, but you are generally still in control of that plate,
Right, you're managing the workflow, you're handling it.
Exactly. Being up to your neck is a very visceral metaphor. It signals that the water is rising rapidly.
Wow, yeah, that is a strong image.
You are no longer just managing. You are dangerously close to losing control and literally drowning in those responsibilities.
So it's about the trajectory of the workload, not just the volume. So like, if a colleague drops by your desk and asks for help on a new project, saying I'm busy might sound like an invitation for them to ask again tomorrow.
Yeah, they might think you'll be free later.
But if you want to set a firm boundary, you'd say, I'd love to help, but I'm up to my neck in the Q3 quarterly reports right now.
Exactly. It illustrates the extreme severity of your situation without sounding rude or dismissive.
That's a great tool for the office.
And back to the IELTS exam. If you are asked to describe a stressful period in your life, you might say, During my final year of university, I was up to my neck in dissertation research.
This sounds so natural.
It really shows the examiner you understand how to convey intense pressure without just saying I was very stressed.
Okay, so when you are up to your neck and the water is rising, how do you survive? You realize you aren't going to finish everything, so you just try to make a small mark on the problem.
Which leads us to the phrase, to make a dent in something.
Yes. This means making noticeable progress on a large or difficult task.
And the underlying mechanics of this phrase are really interesting to me. Making a dent is explicitly not the same as finishing or completing a job.
Right. Think of the physics of it. Like if you have a massive solid piece of metal, it's incredibly hard to break.
Nearly impossible.
But if you take a hammer and strike it hard enough, you leave a dent. You haven't destroyed the metal, but you have permanently altered it. You've overcome that massive initial inertia.
That's a great way to visualize it. Making a dent means you finally struck a blow against a massive obstacle.
I can totally see this being useful for managing expectations at work. Let's say you're a software developer updating the team on a massive, horrible code debugging project.
Oh, those are the worst.
You could say, well, we haven't fixed the whole system yet, but we've finally made a dent in the backlog. It communicates real progress, but it stops you from overpromising.
It basically says, hey, the mountain's still there, but we've successfully started moving the rocks. It's a very practical, grounded phrase.
But what happens when you just can't make a dent? Like when the obstacle is just too big, that's when human nature kicks in and people tend to hit the panic button.
Hit the panic button. The source defines this as suddenly reacting with extreme fear or stress.
And we need to distinguish this from simply getting nervous, right?
Oh, absolutely. Nervousness is usually a slow internal build of anxiety. You feel it in your stomach.
Sweaty palms, that sort of thing.
Exactly. But hitting the panic button is sudden, external, and usually involves a completely disproportionate, actionable overreaction.
Oh, I have the perfect example of this. Just last week, I was about to do a video interview. 30 seconds before we went live, my microphone wouldn't connect.
Oh, no. What did you do?
Instead of just calmly opening my computer's Bluetooth settings to check the pairing, I literally dove under my desk and unplugged the entire computer from the wall.
Wow.
Total panic button moment. Completely irrational.
That is the perfect illustration. Think of a literal red button in a factory or an emergency room. You slam it, alarms ring, the machinery halts. It's an abrupt escalation from 0 to 100.
So it's an action, not just a feeling. In a professional setting, a good leader is usually the person guarding that button.
Right? They have to be.
Imagine a manager calming their team down by saying, I know the client delayed the launch at the last minute, but let's not hit the panic button yet. Let's just look at our options.
Exactly. It shows high emotional intelligence. But, if we connect this to the bigger picture, when people are up to their necks in stress and they're desperately trying not to hit the panic button, they often start looking for shortcuts.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, they start manipulating appearances just to survive the pressure.
Now we're getting into the really interesting social dynamics. We're moving from the daily grind into idioms about ego and unfair advantages.
It's a very common human response.
And that brings us to the phrase, to stack the deck. The definition is arranging things so the outcome favors you unfairly.
The origin here is quite literal. It comes directly from card games.
Like playing with hidden aces or dealing from the bottom of the deck.
Right.
But let me challenge this. In the corporate world, we are always told to prepare meticulously. If I stay up all night memorizing a client's entire financial history so I can impress them in a meeting tomorrow, am I stacking the deck?
No, you are not. And that's a vital distinction. Thorough preparation is intense, sure, but it relies on fair play and effort.
Okay, that makes sense.
Stacking the deck explicitly involves sneaking around the rules or manipulating the circumstances to guarantee a win regardless of your actual effort.
Ah, so it's about the fairness of the outcome. You would use this when pointing out someone playing dirty, like gossiping with a coworker. You might say, I can't believe we lost that contract. The rival vendor totally stacked the deck by getting insider information before the bidding process even started.
Perfectly used. It immediately conveys that the whole process was rigged from the start.
But sometimes, people don't even bother to actually stack the deck. They just loudly pretend that they did. Which brings us to someone who loves to talk a big game.
To talk a big game.
This means boasting confidently about your abilities without ever actually proving them.
The gap between speech and action is what really defines this phrase. We need to contrast it with being simply self-assured.
Right, because confident people exist.
Sure. A self-assured person might speak confidently, but they have the competence to back up their claims. Someone who talks a big game creates a massive, frankly embarrassing void between their vocal boasts and their actual execution.
It's basically a polite corporate way of calling someone a liar without using the word liar.
Pretty much, yeah.
This is fantastic for the IELTS speaking test. Imagine the prompt asks you to describe a person you didn't enjoy working with.
Oh, that's a classic prompt.
You could say, I had this former classmate who always talked a big game about their brilliant study habits and grades, but they actually never passed the final exams.
That tells a whole complex story in just 4 words. It demonstrates a very high level of vocabulary control to the examiner.
And when someone talks a big game and inevitably fails, what is their next move? Well, they try to gloss over something. This is defined as ignoring or hiding a problem to make things seem fine.
And again, we need to compare this to a similar but different action, summarizing.
Right, because we summarize things all the time at work.
We do. Summarizing is condensing information to make it more efficient. It's a helpful tool. Glossing over is deliberately omitting critical flaws to protect an image or avoid trouble.
Right, summarizing is giving the highlights, but glossing over is hiding the lowlights. It's like putting a fresh coat of bright paint over a massive structural crack in a bridge.
That's exactly it.
It looks fantastic for the mayor's ribbon-cutting ceremony, but structurally, it's a total disaster waiting to happen.
That is a terrifying but very accurate analogy.
So in a workplace, this is often used as a serious warning. A senior manager might pull a junior employee aside before a big meeting and say, listen, the client needs the brutal truth. Do not gloss over the security risks in this afternoon's presentation.
It basically means don't pretend the bad stuff doesn't exist just to make yourself look better.
Okay, so we've talked about stress, manipulation, and hiding flaws. Let's end with the ultimate fantasy for the people who talk a big game. The phrase is being rolling in it.
Rolling in it.
The definition is being extremely wealthy with plenty of extra money.
The visualization here is almost cartoonish. Just think of Scrooge McDuck literally rolling around in a vault of gold coins.
That's a great image.
And we need to separate this from simply being comfortable or well off.
Right. If you're comfortable, you pay your mortgage on time and take a nice vacation once a year.
Exactly. But if you are rolling in it, you have an almost absurd, extravagant excess of disposable income. You have so much money that financial stress is a completely foreign concept to you.
So if you were gossiping at work about an industry acquisition, you might say, since they sold their tech startup to that massive conglomerate, the founders are absolutely rolling in it.
Yes. It implies life-changing generational wealth. It's wealth on a completely different scale.
All right, you've just absorbed a massive amount of advanced vocabulary.
Yeah.
But passive listening isn't enough to make a dent in your learning goals. It is time for the superbly said interactive quiz.
I am very excited for this.
I am going to read a question and 3 options. Option A, option B, and option C. For every single question, our expert will reveal the answer and quickly recap the context so it really sticks in your memory. Let's see how much you've retained.
I'm ready to test them. Let's do it.
Here we go. Question 1. When a person is forced to fork something over, they're expected to do what? Let's hear the options for forking something over. Option A. Eagerly donate funds to support a newly established charitable organizational initiative. Option B. Reluctantly surrender money or valuable possessions to another demanding external party.
Or the last one.
Or option C. Systematically organize financial records before formally submitting them to an accountant. So feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct answer is option B. When you have to fork something over, you are reluctantly surrendering money. Remember our workplace example of having to fork something over when giving up your department budget to a demanding vendor or paying that unfair luggage fee at the airport.
Spot on. Okay, moving to question 2. If a colleague tends to hit the panic button, it means they tend to do what? Let's look at hitting the panic button.
A very common office problem.
Option A, intentionally trigger a security system during a highly stressful office situation. Option B, quickly resolve an escalating emergency by calmly following established safety protocols.
Maybe.
Or option C, suddenly react with extreme fear or severe stress to unexpected problems. Again, feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need a moment to think.
That is option C. To hit the panic button is to suddenly react with extreme fear or stress. Think back to the good manager who calmly tells their team not to hit the panic button just because a client delayed a launch, or, unplugging your computer instead of checking the Bluetooth.
Hey, we've all been there. Question 3. To successfully make a dent in something implies that an individual has managed to do what? What does it mean to make a dent in something?
Let's see the options.
Option A, make noticeable and measurable progress on a particularly large or difficult task. Option B, permanently damage a valuable asset while carelessly attempting to repair it.
That would be bad.
Really bad. Or option C, completely abandon a challenging project due to overwhelming initial logistical hurdles. Feel free to hit pause on this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is option A. When you make a dent in something, you are making noticeable progress on a massive task. Just like the software team who finally managed to make a dent in something by clearing out a small piece of their endless code debugging backlog.
Moving right along. Question 4. A negotiator who attempts to stack the deck is primarily trying to do what? Stack the deck.
A card game 1.
Right. Option A, meticulously organize important physical documents before a highly anticipated business meeting. Option B, unfairly manipulate the surrounding circumstances so that the final outcome favors them.
Oh, shit.
Option C, openly share confidential operational strategies with competitors to ensure fair play. Feel free to pause this deep dive here to think it over.
That would be option B. To stack the deck is to unfairly manipulate circumstances for a guaranteed win. Remember the complaint about the rival vendor who managed to stack the deck by getting insider information before the corporate bidding process even began?
Halfway there. Question 5. To say you are currently up to your neck in something indicates you are what? Up to your neck in something.
The rising water.
Yep. Option A, completely overwhelmed or deeply involved in difficult, ongoing professional work problems. Option B, confidently handling a significantly high volume of responsibilities without any stress.
Unlikely for most of us.
True. Or option C, dangerously exposing yourself to completely unnecessary physical risks during an activity. Go ahead and pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct answer is option A. Being up to your neck in something means you're completely overwhelmed and the water is rising. Think of the firm boundary you set when declining a meeting because you are up to your neck in something, like those massive Q3 quarterly reports.
Perfect. Question 6. Someone who is known to always talk a big game is highly likely to do what? Talk a big game.
Another great phrase.
Option A, extensively discuss complex theoretical strategies during a professional competitive sports match. Option B, constantly encourage surrounding team members by repeatedly highlighting their impressive achievements.
Sounds too nice.
Yeah. Or option C, boast confidently about their personal abilities without ever actually proving them. Feel free to pause this deep dive right here if you need to think about the answer.
That is option C. To talk a big game is to boast without the competence to prove it. Just like that IELTS example of the former classmate who would constantly talk a big game about their brilliant study habits, but then consistently fail their final exams.
Just 2 left. Question 7. In a corporate environment, deciding to gloss over something signifies a decision to do what? Gloss over something.
Painting the bridge.
Exactly. Option A, thoroughly polish a final visual presentation until it appears perfectly professional. Option B, intentionally ignore or deliberately hide a serious problem to maintain appearances.
Right.
Option C, explicitly highlight seemingly minor administrative errors in order to prevent future mistakes. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need a second to think.
The answer is option B. To gloss over something is to intentionally hide a problem, like painting over a cracked bridge. Remember the senior manager warning the junior employee never to gloss over something critical, like the severe security risks in a client presentation.
And our final challenge, question 8. If a successful entrepreneur is described as rolling in it, they're generally considered to be what? Rolling in it.
Scrooge McDuck.
Yep. Option A, be extremely wealthy and possess an impressive abundance of extra disposable income. Option B, be profoundly confused by rapidly changing global economic market fluctuation trends.
Let's hear the last one.
Or option C, successfully navigate a series of incredibly fortunate and highly profitable investment events. Feel free to pause this deep dive here for the last time if you need to think about the answer.
Our final answer is option A. To be rolling in it means to be absurdly wealthy. Think of those tech startup founders we discussed. After selling their company to a massive conglomerate, they were absolutely rolling in it.
And that is a wrap on the quiz. Congratulations on expanding your advanced vocabulary toolkit today. These aren't just words, They are precise tools that will truly elevate your everyday English and help you command respect in any room.
Absolutely. And as we close, it's just fascinating to realize that the language we use doesn't just describe our reality, it actively shapes how we view success and stress.
Wow, yeah, that's so true.
Think about your own professional life. Do you ever find yourself subtly trying to frame situations in a way that avoids the hard truths, just so you don't end up hitting the panic button?
That's a deep question.
I mean, are you tempted to stack the deck in your own mind? It's genuinely worth reflecting on how we label our own challenges.
That is a brilliant and honestly slightly confronting thought to leave us with. Thank you so much for exploring these concepts with me.
It was my pleasure.
To everyone listening, I challenge you to take at least one of these phrases, whether it's fork over, make a dent, or up to your neck, and actively use it in your very next English conversation. Until next time, keep learning and keep speaking.